It's garlic harvesting time. Got my Hori Hori knife here, and I've got two techniques that I use to harvest the garlic. The one I use most is the Hori Hori, and I just shove it down deep into the soil and then just give it a little tug and then pull it up. And then you come up, you get a little root ball, just take all that dirt off, and you got a big beautiful clove of garlic there. You can tell it's ready to harvest because there's one set of leaves, well, one leaf wrapper, 2, 3, and this one's dying off, so about 4. Anywhere between 4 to 5 leaves. Once those leaves die off towards the bottom, they're ready to pull out of the ground. And I do a test clove to see what the bulb development looks like. You don't want to just go through and prepare to take all the garlic out of the ground without checking a couple bulbs at least to see that they've actually bulbed up. Because when you pull it out too early, you're just going to have this, basically looks like a green onion, so it's just kind of this with a little nub on the end. But you want to make sure they're nice and bulbed up so you get your, sufficient delicious garlic cloves. Once I've got it out of the ground, I just take the dirt off the roots here so I don't track it everywhere when I get it to my little drying area. I'll eventually do another video where I have my makeshift drying things I do every season. They're basically just old material, sometimes pallets. This time I think I'm going to use some of the leftover wire from my tomato trellises last year to lay these on just to get good airflow. But before I take them out of the garden, I'll peel off all the leaves, all the more dead leaves, and just kind of clean the cloves up a little bit. So it'll help them dry a little more. You don't want to take off too many because you want the wrappers, because that's going to be the thing that's going to preserve it. But taking off a few sets of leaves isn't going to hurt the cloves at all. And it just keeps the dirt from going everywhere, which my wife definitely appreciates. The other method that I use for pulling my garlic out of the ground is just a little garden fork. This one I pulled out some pretty big weeds, so you can see the tines aren't all level anymore. So I tend not to like to use this method as much because I'm not as controlled with where everything's going. I don't want to mess up the cloves by accidentally stabbing them. But with this, just push it into the ground, a couple inches, maybe even a few inches away from the bulb, because we don't want to mess the bulb up. Just push it in the ground, give it a little pull. You're just trying to loosen that soil up a little bit. You're not trying to turn the soil or anything. Trying to still disturb the soil as little as possible, but we also don't want to just pull the garlic straight out of the ground because there's a chance that we could end up just ripping the bulb off and then the bulb is stuck in the ground. It's not going to cure as well then. You want to leave all those greens on so it cures nice and slow and it gets plenty of paper wrapper around it to help it stay throughout the entire season that you're going to be trying to preserve it for. We can usually get ours to last upwards of a year. All right. Just work it in the soil. Nice and deep. And then just pull back. And now we've got all these areas here that are ready to just pull from the ground. Another big beautiful clove. Not as big, but still beautiful. Just like that, excellent sized cloves, and they smell amazing and dirty. Garlic's all harvested, at least that one type. Again, Kate's backyard. Now the next thing, maybe some lessons learned. So some cloves that you plant just aren't going to be as strong as others. This could have just been a really small clove. I planted some pretty small cloves, but at the same time, Some of them may be really, really nice and substantial. So some of these are just giants in comparison to the other one, right? This is one clove, and this is probably 8 giant cloves in this. So I think the biggest lesson I learned growing this year is planting them deep enough. The year prior, I put them in maybe about 2 inches deep, and they germinated really fast, which you really don't want. You really want them to take their time to develop those roots, and then eventually shoot above the soil. With garlic, you really don't have to worry about frost killing it off. It's very tolerant, especially in my area. But last year we had a lot of really hard frost early in the season, so I think it really stunted it quite a bit. This year I planted it, instead of the 2 inches last year, I planted it anywhere between probably even 4 to 8 inches, and the majority of these cloves are significantly better. There's really no comparison from this crop to my last year's crop of the same variety. I had some decent sized bulbs, but nothing even close to these. Maybe they were probably about half. The biggest one last year was about half the size of this bulb here. So very happy with the results. So now I'm just going to sit here in the garden, peel off all the leaves so I get my nice clean bulbs, and then in the dirty garden way, I just chuck it to the side and let it decompose. By doing that, it's just going to help feed the soil, bugs and everything. They're going to come and decompose it, which I actually want, because those bugs are going to feed a bunch of other things. So myself, I'm really not too concerned about if, slugs come by and eat this stuff. Doesn't matter to me. The slugs are going to be here either way. So like most of the things I do in the garden, I'd rather have something here for them to eat that's not the other stuff that I don't want it to eat. So just give them more options. Out of all the bulbs, these 4 were the only ones that are small. Even then, there's still plenty to actually cure and eat. The cloves are still a good size. There's just not a lot of cloves on these bulbs. So I didn't pull the paper off of those because they're so small that I'd rather just leave them the way they are. I had one bulb that I ended up nicking. It looks like with my Hori Hori. This one I'm gonna end up using for green garlic. You don't want to try to get these ones to cure, because these cloves that are exposed are gonna rot. And the rotting clove has the potential to spread to the other cloves by it. So on both sides, there's a really good chance these ones will rot away too. And then that also opens up the chance for all the other ones to rot away. So with anytime I nick them, I just set them to the side. We use them as green garlic. Still tastes great either way. But the real bounty is this pile of garlic right here. And this is just one of 6 varieties I have. So I still have quite a bit more to harvest. But extremely happy with this harvest so far. All right, well, that's the end of this one. So like always, stay dirty, you dirty learners. Thanks, Lily and Louie, for that dirty learner thing. Good stuff. Bye-bye.